Welcome to TechNow. I'm your host, John Reid, also CEO of CATA Alliance. And I'm pleased to have this morning with me Stephen Woodward, the CEO of Cloud Perspectives. And actually, the name of his company is very much in keeping with the theme of TechNow today. Steve has been meeting with some key thought leaders in the US, getting a sense of how they're doing with Cloud First. So Steve, can you give us an insight on the U.S. progress vis-a-vis Cloud First? I know you've met with the DoD CIO. There was some talk of cloud catalogs. Like, what's going on in our largest market?
Right. So last week was the NIST Cloud Mobility event in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And as well last week was the OMG's Public Cloud Sector event, as well in Reston, Virginia. So I actually presented at both a little bit. And I had the opportunity to actually sit and listen to a lot of the U.S. government thought leaders and executives around the cloud space, around Cloud First. So primarily some of the most interesting discussions were actually from Dawn Leith, who is the CIO or Deputy CIO from the U.S. Department of Labor. She was actually the director of the NIST Cloud First initiative. And she was nice enough a couple of years ago to come up and visit GTEC and present with actually Pierre Boucher of Treasury Board at that time, and as well Benoit Lott, who is now the Deputy Minister or Assistant Deputy Minister of Shared Services. So there was 4 of us on that particular panel. So now it's very interesting because she is now actually an implementer with her new responsibility at the U.S. Department of Labor. So they've been having a lot of interesting initiatives, especially around their email, which is now actually under a cloud model. And as well, they're very much interested in moving towards more services actually focused directly with their public consumers. So of course, this will be involving more mobile devices, etc. So very interesting on that side. The other presenter that was very interesting at NIST was, I believe it's Terry Takai, who's the CIO with Department of Defense. So the Defense Department, everyone always knows that security and privacy are major issues and major concerns and considerations. The Department of Defense, they actually have a cloud catalog right now. And in that catalog is primarily unclassified applications, but they're also expanding it now to even classified applications. So very interesting. Then as well, they're actually also looking at leveraging mobile devices and wireless communication. So they actually have a major challenge of trying to connect 3 million mobile devices as one of their targets over the next few years. So very interesting. They very much see that cloud is actually a major support and enabler for a lot of their mobile initiatives. One comment that the CIO from DoD said, which I thought was particularly interesting, was that everything is a lot more secure in the cloud. So the less information and content that's on the devices, the better. So it's just a very interesting insight that some people don't recognize in terms of the fact that cloud is actually quite often more secure than the traditional environments.
Well, Steve, you've been very active in representing CATA on various committees to Shared Services Canada and other bodies. So I think you have a pretty good idea of where Canada stands in terms of this mindset. How would you compare or benchmark us vis-a-vis to what you've just reported in the U.S. marketplace? Where do we stand?
Unfortunately, we're lagging behind pretty dramatically. So from the discussions that we're having internationally around the international tables, they're very much thinking strategically. Some of the presentations last week was actually talking about embedding technology into pills so that you're monitoring when people have actually taken a pill to actually reduce some of the healthcare costs because some people are not very good at taking their medicine. So extremely innovative discussions. We had discussions around talking about mobile solutions and using the transducers and sensors on the mobile devices so that early responders and emergency response teams could actually identify hotspots in buildings before they enter them, in terms of for the firefighters. We had discussions around vehicle-to-vehicle communication. In the U.S., in the next 2 years, it's going to be mandatory for them to actually have vehicle-to-vehicle communication and basically smart vehicles built into those different vehicles. So it's just fascinating in terms of the types of innovative discussions that we're having. In Canada, there's still so many challenges and discussions around policies. So in all the different communities that I'm involved with, one of the key messages is always that the technology and the cloud environments are pretty darn stable and pretty good. Most of the challenges are around policies and procedures and cultural implications, resistance to change. In the Canadian marketplace, our lack of policies is actually really constraining a lot of the innovation that is taking place elsewhere.
Well, Steve, that's quite a quagmire we face in Canada, and obviously we'll pay for that in terms of economic value and job creation and efficiency. And I understand that you're going to try to help us out here and bring in some of the models that are being developed in the U.S. Perhaps we'll organize some additional teleforums. I'll try to reach out with TechNow so that we can bring in and have the Canadian policymakers have clarity, transparency, and accelerate what we're doing in Canada. So I appreciate the role that you're playing. I want to thank you for joining us on TechNow. It's a critical topic to the success of Canada as an innovation nation.